Continuing with the review for Mac 1105, Chapter 2, Practice Tests, number 20. You are given a slope of 2. Your line passes through 6, 5. You're asked to write the equation in point slope form. Point slope formula is y minus y1. Slope times x minus x1. This is the x1 and the y1. You're not plugging in for the regular y and x, just the ones with the subscripts. So this would be 5. Your slope is 2. This is x minus the x coordinate, which is 6. So the choices are for this problem. Y minus 5 is equal to 2 times x minus 6. I see that answer in choice A. Okay, moving on to 21. Again, you're given a slope of 4. Passing through for 21 to 6. Asked to give the equation in point slope form. Okay, so pretty much exactly the same level as number 20, using that same formula, the point slope formula, just as we used in problem number 20. And they've said that you can leave it in this form, so that makes it even easier. So it's y minus the y coordinate. The slope is 4. And then it's x minus the x coordinate. And then you're choosing the answer for that. So it's y minus 6. It can't be A. It is choice B. Okay, moving on to 22. From 22, you're passing through 1, -3, the line that you're trying to write the equation of, and you're also passing through the x-intercept, -1. X-intercepts can be written as points. In fact, they are points. Any intercept is a point. This is a point on the x-axis. This is where it hits on the x-axis. This is the y-coordinate. So in this problem, unlike numbers 20 and 21, you don't have a slope, so that introduces an extra step in the problem. You're going to have to use the slope formula to find the slope yourself so that you can go on to write the equation of the line. I would put the minuses in first to sort of cut down on the mistakes that you make with double negatives, should there be any. This formula says to use the y values on top. And in these 2 points, the y values are -3 and 0. It doesn't matter which one you use first, but if you decide to use the numbers in this point and then travel to that point, you have to keep that direction for both your y's and your x's, because that will make it come out wrong. So the y's are -3 and 0. -3 take away nothing, -3. Your x's are moving in the same direction, 1 and -1. So you have a double negative here, so it's really 1 plus 1, and there's your slope. So now that you have your slope and a point to pass through, you can write the equation. Okay, this is the point slope formula once again. It's your choice as to which point you want to pick. I'm going to stick with the x-intercept because anything with a 0 as either your x or y is going to make this a little bit easier to deal with. So y minus the y coordinate is 0. And you might have to write use both of them so that you can pick these answers, because when you're doing a multiple choice question, they may be giving both, so we'll have to look at those answers. The slope is -3/2 times x minus the x coordinate. I was using this point right here, so x minus -1. This would be 3/2 times x plus 1. y take away 0, just y. So that's going to be one form of the equation. Yeah, and it looks like in all these answers they're giving both. So let's stick with that as one of our answers. This is the answer we got when we used the -1, 0 point. Now we'll use the other point. So with this same formula, y minus the y coordinate is equal to the slope times x minus the x coordinate. That would give you y plus 3 is equal to -3/2 times x minus 1. So let's see if we can find an answer that has both this and this. Okay, so for number 22, A has y is equal to -3/2 times x plus 1. And if the other equation is right, then it's going to be choice A. So y plus 3, -3/2 times x minus 1. So number 22 is A, because the answer has both of these exact with the signs and everything. Moving on to 23, you're passing through 1, -4. And again, with the x-intercept of -1. So the x-intercepts, as I said in the previous problem, can be written as a point where this is the actual place that it hits the x-axis. And anytime you hit the x-axis, the y-partner is always 0. Having 2 points allows you to get the slope using the slope formula, because you need the slope no matter what formula you use to go on and write the equation. Okay, so the y's are, I'm going to use this y first and then this y. And then I'm going to do the x's. 1 take away -1. Get -4 on the top. 1 plus 1, because of the double negative, will give me 2. So -2 is the slope. Then I'll go on to write the equation. I'm going to write both, because this, again, this is a multiple choice question and they're going to give both of them. So using the first point, it would be y minus the y coordinate is equal to slope times, let's put the slope in there rather than an m. The slope is -2, and then it's x minus the x coordinate, which is 1. Clean up the double negative, so it would be y plus 4 is equal to -2. Just like the previous 3 problems, they're allowing you to leave it in point slope form. So this is one of the answers that should appear in the choice that we make. Okay, then let's use the other point, which is the -1, 0. Again, starting with y minus the y coordinate is equal to the slope times x minus the x coordinate. This side would be -2 x plus 1, and this would just be y. So we want to find an answer that has both of these right down to the very last little sign. Okay, so let's see. We'll just start with choice A. Y plus 4, -2 times x. So right so far. Check the other equation. Yep, choice A. Okay, 23 is choice A. That's nice. We found it right away. And that completes the problems up through 23. Let's continue. The next page. Moving on to do number 24. I guess I will do this one right on the actual test. Okay, if you use rapid graphing, you won't have to make a table. The -1 that you see at the end of the equation represents the y-intercept. So if you're using rapid graphing, that's the way where you would start. Put a point on the y-axis, right at -1. The 3/4 that you see in front of the x, that coefficient represents the slope, the top being the rise and the bottom being the run. Okay, so each of the numbers you're seeing here has a purpose in the graph. The 4 is the run. The -1 is where the graph starts, but specifically, you don't just go to any -1 you want. It starts on the y-axis because this is called a y-intercept. Okay, so now we're going to make our moves to act out this slope. We're going to rise in a +3 manner. So we're going to go from -1, which is where we started. We're going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3. That puts us at 2. Don't make the point yet. Run 4. That's where your second point is. And there's your graph, and then pick the one that looks like that. And you want to make sure that you're picking the proper one by the direction. So the only way you can be choosing is from A, C, and D, and then look at where your graph hits. It hits at -1, so choice A can't possibly be it. Choice C could, hits at -1, and then another key point on this graph is 2, 4. You want to check that. 4, it should, and this graph actually goes through 2, 4. If you line the 2 up with the 4, choice C actually goes right through that. So choice C is the answer. Be careful with what you pick. Make sure it has the same details on it as the graph that you did by hand. So do the graph by hand first, then choose the one that has the specific details that your graph has. Moving on to 25. 25, you are graphing x equal to -4. This is missing a variable. Quickest way to do that graph is just to make up a couple of points, because that's really all you need to get a line. This says that x is constantly 4. Y has no bearing on the graph because it doesn't even appear in the graph. That means as long as you're letting the x be 4, the y coordinates can be anything that you want. This is going to turn out to be a vertical line. So I chose 0 for one of my y coordinates and 1 for the other one. You can choose whatever you want as long as you obey what the equation is telling you to do, which is let x be -4 constantly. Okay, so if you go and plot -4, 0, you have a point here, and then -4, 1 would be right here, and if you continued to plot points, they would just be bunch of points all lined up vertically. So this is x equal to -4. Okay, moving on to number 26. 26 is also a constant equation. And again, it's because it's missing one variable. It only has a y. So the one variable that it does have, you're going to need to isolate that variable by dividing both sides by 4, leaving you with y is equal to 7. So plot a couple of points where your y coordinate is 7, and you can let the x, the variable that's missing here, you can let that be whatever you want. I'm going to choose -2 and 1, but anything will do. So -2, go all the way up to 7. 6, 7, be about right there. And then 1, 7, right there. This is a bunch of points lined up at a height of 7. So it's called y is equal to 7, and that would be choice B. Okay, in problem 27, you can make a table if you'd like. And I would suggest that. It would be great if you know the shapes so that you know how many points you have to get. I would try to get points at the vertex as well as points on either leg. This is the V shape. Absolute value has a V shape. So if you plug in a 0 in for x, absolute value of 0 is 0. And then take away 2, you get a -2. If you plug in a negative number, plug in something to the left, plug in something to the right so that you get each of the legs. I'm going to choose -2, and I'm going to choose +2 so that you have mirror images. Okay, when you plug in a -2 into this absolute value and then subtract 2, you get 2, take away 2 equals 0. And when you plug in a positive value, take away 2, you also get 0. 2 take away 2 is 0. Okay, so at 0, -2, you have a point, and then you have 2, 0, and -2, 0. So I just plotted these 3 points. There's your V shape. And when I grade these, I'm going to be checking your x-intercepts and then, whatever the low point is, the vertex. Likewise right here. Again, this is the V shape. You can get a nice shape by picking at least 3 points just to get the, the nice width on the graph. I'm going to use 0 again. I'm going to use a negative number. I'm going to use the positive version of that number. Okay, you could also put these in the graphing calculator, but then I'm going to need you to know where second table is so that you can go and retrieve these tables and give me a table that has at least 3 points. So whether you do it by hand or whether you do it by graphing calculator, and then second table will allow you to get a table of values and copy them onto your paper here. Okay, if you do plug in 0, that's 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. If you plug in -3, the -3 would be inside the absolute value, which would turn it into +3. Then you'd be adding 2. You would get a 5. Plugging in a +3 is going to give you the same answer. Okay, so 0, 2. Oops. Right there. Then -3, 5. Right there. And then +3, 5 is right here. And there's your graph. Vertex at 0, 2, and the 2 legs. Moving on to 29. In 29 and 30, let me check it before I even say that. I'm going to stop at 29 for this little clip, but up through, for 29, this is going to be parabola because there's a square on the x. Again, I would do a table, begin the graph on standard quadratic form, then use transformations of this graph to graph the given function. I'm good with you just giving one graph here. Okay, so if you are doing this graph, if you want to plot some points, or you can use your graphing calculator. I'm going to put a 0 in there. I'm going to put a 4 in there. Well, let's put the 0 in first and see what the answer is. So let's put 0 in here. It's going to be y is equal to, that's the h of x, and then I'm going to have a negative right out here. I'm going to go 0 minus 2 squared. So the negative will still be out here. You'll have -2 squared. Anytime you square a number, it's positive, but then this extra negative turns it back negative. So when you plug in a 0, you're getting -4 for a partner. So 0, -4 is going to be right down here. Now, if you want to pick something to the right of this particular value, like possibly 2, and then maybe -2. So when plugging in the 2, the negative out here would be 2. Take away 2, square it, and then you're getting an answer of 2 take away 2. This is 0 squared. Negative's not going to matter because it's a 0. So just 0. Okay, so when you plug in a 2, you're getting this. And when you plug in a negative 2, you have the negative out front, you have negative 2 take away 2 squared. This is going to be negative 2 take away 2 is negative 4. I'm going to square this. You're going to get a 16. Drop down that negative. You're going to get y is equal to negative 16. Let's see what's on here. This is 0. There's 0 in there. Minus 2. And then when I put the 2 in here, 2 minus 2 was 0. 0 squared is 0. So h of x came out to be 0. I have that answer there. And then just checking all of these. Negative 2 take away 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. Drop that down. So now you're doing negative 2, negative 16.